Good morning, this is Stuart Davidson here, your friendly bean counter. Now, it seems quite a strange thing to talk about who looks after the cash on your property development. It seems quite obvious, doesn't it? But actually, one of the key things in property development and construction is that cash moves very, very slowly compared with other industries. It moves very slowly through the supply chain. And sometimes you think, why is that? Because it's my contention that slow cash flow leads to disputes, delays, disruption, lack of return on investment, and many, many other things. And so I wanted to talk to you today about who looks after the cash and the way that it flows traditionally in a project, and just to kind of point out to you how much friction there really is. So who looks after the cash? Well, you have a monitoring surveyor at one end for the lender, so the lender and the internal accountants with the lender and the monitoring surveyor. Then you have the developer, and he may have his own PQS, quantity surveyor that looks after his cash. Might be a project manager, or he might do it himself, but there's a person there that looks after the cash at that level. Then there's a contractor. He has a QS, or a project manager, looks after the cash at the contractor's level. And then you have the subcontractor. You have the subcontractor's QS or the subcontractor's accountant. Then you have the supplier and the supplier's manager or the supplier's accountant. So if you're talking in terms of QSs, basically you've got 4 QSs. You've got a monitoring surveyor, you've got a PQS, you've got the contractor's QS, you've got the subcontractor's QS. And so it's passing through all those different hands. Your cash is passing through all those different hands, all those different organisations, all those organisations that have got different operational demands on their cash, different accounts departments, they pay out on different days. It's no wonder the cash is running slowly through the project. And contracts as well. Contracts make it like it because the contracts have payment terms that facilitate friction. They facilitate the friction in the movement of cash because they'll have the payment from the monitoring surveyor, the download, the drawdown to the developer or the client's QS. They will have a contract with payment terms to slow things down, to give them time to get the money in so they can pay the money out. And with the contractor, the same. He'll have payment terms that will give him time in terms of cash flow to get the money drawn down from the developer or the lender to his account before he pays his subcontractors. And then the same with the subcontractor. His payment terms with his suppliers will be to slow the cash down so that he gets the cash in before he pays the next guy. And when you look at it, you couldn't really make it up, could you? Really, you can't make it up the way that the industry runs. Friction, 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 friction. 4 QSs, monitoring surveyor, PQS, contractor surveyor, subcontractor surveyor, and the manager within the suppliers' organisations. Bump, 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 bump. Slow, 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 slow. So why don't you do this? Why don't you have just one independent person managing the cash throughout the supply chain on your project so the money can flow quickly, it can get to where it needs to be when it needs to be, and there's no risk of money leaking out. So that's another thing that happens. There's 2 things that happen throughout the supply chain that not a lot of people know about. One is the cash farming, and the other, which is whereby a contractor might see a cash deal. He's got a number of projects going on the go, and using his operational costs, he'll go and buy a property for cash, then he'll refinance it and bring the money back. But he's earned an asset out of the money he's getting into his operational accounts, and then he brings the cash back into the project. So he wants the money to flow a bit slower in that case when he's doing that. Or, like all supply chains in construction, they'll have a number of projects on the go. They'll get paid on one job to pay the cash flow on another job. So why are you entrusting 4, 5 different people down the chain to manage the cash flow? And you don't know really who people are dealing with, you know? So you need transparency. So rather than have 4 QSs, monitoring surveyor, PQS, contractors QS, subcontractors QS, suppliers manager, 4 or 5 different people, 4 or 5 different accounts departments that are dealing with the cash. Why not just have one independent money cash flow monitor tracker that can pay money on time when it's needed, get the money cash flowing? because money loves speed and hates friction. It hates friction. And to make money, you need it to flow. And one thing it doesn't do in construction, it doesn't flow. So I just wanted to talk about that, to just kind of flag up the crazy way that construction is structured. And it's the contracts as well are written around that structure. So it makes you're paying for 4 or 5 different accounting people on a project to manage the costs throughout the supply chain. So why not think about, on your next project, can I get a system, can I get an independent person to take care of the cash, to make sure that the cash doesn't leak out my project, to make sure it moves to where it's got to go, and to also make sure that when I'm spending my money, it's going to my asset and to build my asset up and bring me a return on my investment, to reduce my risk. Because if you pay a contractor and that contractor hasn't paid the supply chain, your supply chain, and he goes bust, you've lost all that money. You know, it happens all the time, and it's a higher risk of it now after COVID than ever. So if you're an aspiring developer, if you've got projects that you want to look at or projects on the go, have a think about how the industry's structured and how much more you pay when you go through these kind of antiquated traditional routes. So there is a newer, slicker, less riskier way of doing it. Independent cash flow manager to cash flow the cash right the way through the supply chain. Keep control of the supply chain yourself. Keep it transparent. Keep the money flowing. Protect yourself. So if you've got any ideas or comments or thoughts about this, you know, put a comment in the link below. And I'm always also going to post this out onto my YouTube channel. So when it gets there, click the subscribe button down below. And yeah, give me your feedback, see what you think. So this is Stuart Davidson. This is your friendly bean counter. Have a lovely day. See you in the next video. Bye for now.